Mafia boss's mute daughter struggled to order food until a waitress signed a message that helped him. Welcome to my channel, and thank you for being here. Before we dive into today's story, take a moment to hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel grow and make sure you never miss what comes next. And trust me, another brand new story is dropping tomorrow, so you'll want to be here for it. A waitress signed a simple message to help a mute girl order breakfast. What she didn't know, the girl was a mafia boss's daughter, and that one act of kindness would pull her into a dangerous world where being kind to the wrong child meant becoming a target. Now, the only man who could secure her daughter's future was the same one whose power she'd been desperate to avoid. The dining room at Bellissimo smelled like money, imported truffles, aged Parmesan, and that expensive kind of silence that came with white linen tablecloths. Alessia pressed her hands against the smooth edge of the table, her eyes tracing the elegant script on the menu she couldn't voice aloud. She'd been thinking about the strawberry crepes all morning, ever since Papa told her they'd have breakfast here after her speech therapy appointment. Alessia watched the other diners communicate effortlessly. A businessman snapping his fingers for more coffee. A woman laughing into her phone while pointing at something on the dessert cart. The sommelier gliding between tables, answering questions Alessia couldn't ask. 8 years old. And Alessia had learned that words were locked behind a door she couldn't open. She pulled out her communication tablet from the leather bag beside her chair. The one with pictures her therapist had helped program. A plate with pancakes. A strawberry. A smiley face. Simple. Clear. Foolproof, except their server wasn't looking. "I'll return momentarily," the tuxedoed waiter said, his attention already drifting to the couple at table 6, gesturing about wine pairings and gluten sensitivities. Alessia's throat tightened. She tried again, this time holding up the tablet higher, making the strawberry picture face the waiter's retreating back. Her father sat across from her, phone in hand, conducting business in that quiet, lethal tone that made grown men flinch. He hadn't noticed. Not yet. The tablet's screen dimmed. Alessia's fingers trembled as she tapped it back to life. Around her, the restaurant hummed with easy conversation, every voice a reminder of what she couldn't do. Her chest felt heavy, that familiar panic creeping up her spine, the kind that came when the world moved too fast, and she couldn't make it slow down enough to hear her. She pressed the strawberry icon 3 times. 4. 5. Nobody turned. The waiter returned with water glasses that caught the morning light like crystal prisms. Alessia watched the ice cubes settle, creating tiny fractures in the silence between her and Papa. He'd finally pocketed his phone, but his eyes held that faraway look, the one that meant his mind was still conducting business, still calculating risks she didn't understand. "Ready to order, sir?" The waiter's pen hovered over his notepad, his smile professional and distant. Alessia's fingers flew to her tablet, but Papa spoke first. "The girl needs something specific. She has allergies." His tone carried no warmth, just information delivered like ammunition. "Dairy. Tree nuts. Shellfish." The waiter's smile flickered. "Of course. Perhaps the garden omelet? We can prepare it with." Alessia shook her head hard enough that a curl escaped from behind her ear. The omelet had mushrooms. She hated mushrooms, the way they felt like rubber in her mouth, but more importantly, they made her throat itch. Not an allergy exactly, but Dr. Martinez said to avoid them anyway. Intolerance, she'd called it, writing it down on the same long list that made restaurants look at Alessia like she was a puzzle they didn't want to solve. She jabbed at her tablet. The screen showed a plate of French toast, then she swiped to the strawberry, then to a symbol of a glass with a cross through it. "No milk in the batter, please." She held it up, her arms stretched across the white tablecloth, knocking her napkin to the floor. The waiter leaned in, squinting. "Ah, French toast." "Yes." "With strawberries?" His eyes darted to Papa, seeking confirmation, as if Alessia wasn't sitting right there. She nodded frantically, then pulled up the no dairy symbol again, this time holding it so close to his face that he had to step back. But his expression had already glazed over with that look she knew too well, the one that said he was humoring her, not understanding her. We use buttermilk in our batter, he said, directing his words to Papa. Perhaps the fruit plate would be safer? Alessia's hands dropped to her lap. The tablet screen went dark. Around her, silverware clinked against porcelain. A woman's laugh carried from the bar area. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled. Every sound felt amplified, pressing against her skull, while her own voice remained trapped inside her chest like a bird beating against glass. Papa's jaw tightened. Not anger exactly, but something close to it, frustration wrapped in the kind of control that made other people nervous. She wants the French toast. Made with regular eggs, no milk, no butter. Your kitchen can manage that. It wasn't a question. The waiter nodded quickly, scribbling notes, and retreated. Alessia stared at her dark tablet screen, seeing her own distorted reflection in the glass. 8 years old, and still invisible. Olivia had been refilling coffee at table 12 when she noticed the girl's shoulders hunch inward, that universal language of a child trying to disappear. She'd seen it before in Luna, back when her daughter struggled to read aloud in kindergarten. That same desperate wish to be anywhere else. The man across from the girl sat like a king surveying a battlefield. Expensive suit, the kind with no visible stitching. Hands that rested too still on the table, as if movement was a waste of energy. His eyes tracked the waiter's retreat with a cold assessment of someone used to finding weakness. Olivia approached with a coffee pot, her practiced smile already in place. "Can I top that off for you, sir?" He glanced at his untouched cup and said nothing. Permission granted through silence, as she poured. Olivia watched the girl's fingers dance across a darkened tablet screen, pressing and swiping at nothing. The motion was frantic, compulsive. Olivia recognized that desperation, the same way Luna used to clutch her stuffed rabbit when words failed her. The girl looked up suddenly, and their eyes met. Brown eyes swimming with unshed tears. 8, maybe 9 years old, with dark curls and a dress that probably cost more than Olivia's rent. Without thinking, Olivia set down the coffee pot and lifted her hands. "Are you okay?" The girl's eyes went wide. Her mouth opened in a small, silent gasp. "Oh, you need help?" Olivia signed, keeping her movements small, tucked close to her body where only someone paying attention would notice. The girl nodded so hard her curls bounced. Her hands flew up, shaky but determined. "French toast. Strawberries."
No deity.
"Please." Olivia felt her smile turn genuine. "I'll make sure they get it right." She signed back. "I promise." The transformation was instant. The girl's whole face lit up like someone had switched on a lamp behind her eyes. Her shoulders dropped away from her ears. She signed "thank you" 3 times, each repetition more enthusiastic than the last, and then she was beaming, actually beaming, her earlier panic evaporating like morning fog. Then Olivia felt it, the weight of being watched. She turned her head slightly and met the man's gaze. Those cold, calculating eyes had sharpened into something far more dangerous. He was staring at her hands with an intensity that made her throat tighten. Not confusion. Not curiosity. Something darker, like he was running calculations behind those eyes, measuring her worth, her threat level, her potential uses. His expression hadn't changed. Still that same controlled mask, but somehow everything had shifted. The detached father was gone. In his place sat something else entirely, something predatory and vast, and Olivia realized with creeping horror that she'd just made herself visible to the wrong person. She lowered her hands slowly. I'll put that order in for you right away." His nod was barely perceptible, but his eyes never left her face. The French toast arrived perfect, golden, dairy-free, topped with fresh strawberries arranged in a careful pattern. Alessia ate with the focused joy of a child who'd finally been heard, signing delicious to Olivia each time she passed by to check on other tables. The man, the father, said nothing. He didn't touch his own food, some elaborate pasta dish that sat cooling on his plate. He just watched. First his daughter, then Olivia, then back again, like he was studying a chessboard only he could see. When they finished, he placed a black credit card on the edge of the table without looking at the check. No questions about the total. No small talk. Just that same controlled silence that felt like a held breath, Olivia processed the payment at the server station, her hands steadier than she felt. $347 for breakfast. The tip line had a crisp 500 written in sharp, precise handwriting. She stared at the numbers until they blurred. Holy shit, Marcus whispered behind her, leaning over her shoulder. That's like, was the service that good? Or is he laundering money through gratuities now? Olivia didn't laugh. She watched through the dining room doorway as the man stood, buttoning his suit jacket with mechanical precision. Alessia clutched his hand, but turned back to wave at Olivia with her free hand, signing thank you one more time, her smile brilliant. Olivia waved back, her own smile feeling fragile as glass. The man's eyes found hers across the restaurant one final time. Then he turned and guided his daughter toward the exit, his hand protective on her shoulder, and Olivia felt something cold settle in her chest, the distinct sensation of being catalogued, filed away, marked for future reference. She was clearing table 8 20 minutes later when Marcus appeared at her elbow, his phone in hand. Okay, this is weird. Giovanni just asked me who you were. Like, specifically you. Your full name. Olivia's hands stilled on the stack of plates. Why would Giovanni ask about me? Because apparently the guy from table 6 went back to talk to him after he left. Private conversation in Giovanni's office. Marcus's voice dropped lower. And then Giovanni went straight to check the security footage and pull your employee file. Liv, what happened at that table? Nothing. Olivia's throat felt tight. His daughter needed help ordering. I helped her. That's it. Well, that's it just made Giovanni nervous enough to review the cameras twice. He kept rewinding to watch your hands. Marcus touched her arm. What did you do with your hands? Sign language. Simple ASL. The same signs she'd learned years ago when Luna's preschool teacher suggested it might help with her speech delay. Something innocent. Something kind. Why did it feel like she'd just triggered an alarm she couldn't hear? I need to get back to work, Olivia said, but her hands were shaking when she lifted the plates. The estate sprawled across 12 acres of manicured perfection, but Gale Rogers barely noticed the landscape as his car swept through the iron gates. His mind was still in that restaurant, watching a waitress sign fluent ASL to his daughter without hesitation, without being asked, without any apparent awareness of what that skill meant in his world. Alessia had fallen asleep in her car seat, one hand still clutching the paper napkin where the waitress had drawn a smiley face. The first genuine smile Gale had seen on his daughter's face in weeks, maybe months. That should have softened something in him. Instead, it sharpened his focus to a razor's edge. Inside his office, he spread the information Victor had compiled across his desk.
Olivia Marie Torre,
28, single mother. Daughter Luna, age 6, enrolled at Riverside Elementary. 2 years at Bellissimo. Before that, a rotating series of service jobs, each one barely covering rent at her studio apartment in the Crossroads district. Student loans from a college degree she never finished. Medical debt from Luna's birth. 3 months behind on her car payment. Desperate. Vulnerable. Exactly the profile of someone who could be bought or planted. Gale pulled up the security footage on his laptop, watching the moment again. The way Olivia's hands moved, smooth, practiced, natural. Not someone who'd learned a few signs from YouTube. This was fluency. And she'd kept the conversation discreet, her hands low, her body angled away from other diners. Either she was remarkably considerate, or she understood the value of private communication. Background check came back clean, Victor said from the doorway, his bulk filling the frame. No criminal record.
no suspicious objections.
No connection to any of the families we're tracking. She's exactly what she looks like, a broke single mom trying to survive. Her daughter, Gale said, still watching the screen. Special needs. Speech delay, according to the school records. Resolved now, apparently. But the mother learned ASL during that time, took classes at the community center 3 years ago. Victor moved closer, his tone careful. She's not a plant, Gail. She's just someone who helped your kid order breakfast. Gail replayed the footage one more time, watching Alessia's face transform from panic to pure joy. His daughter had been understood. Truly understood. Not through Victor's clumsy attempts at charades, not through the expensive tablet that half the time frustrated her more than it helped, but through actual conversation in her own language. That was valuable. That was rare. That made Olivia Torrey either an asset or a liability, and Gail didn't leave liabilities unaddressed. $7,000, he said, closing the laptop.
Cash.
Deliver to her home tomorrow with a note thanking her for her discretion and kindness.
No signature.
No return address. Victor's eyebrows rose. You're paying her off? I'm testing her. Gail stood, straightening his cuffs. Let's see what kind of person Olivia Torrey really is. Luna was singing when Olivia pushed open the apartment door, some made-up song about butterflies and pizza that only a 6-year-old could create. The sound should have been comforting. Instead, it made Olivia's chest ache with the weight of everything she couldn't provide.
Mana.
Luna launched herself from the couch, nearly knocking over Mrs. Hernandez, their neighbor who watched Luna after school for $20 a week. Money Olivia could barely afford but absolutely couldn't do without. Hey, baby. Olivia caught her daughter mid-leap, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. Were you good for Mrs. Hernandez? She's an angel, Mrs. Hernandez said, gathering her knitting into a canvas bag. We made cookies. Well, we tried. The oven is making that clicking sound again. Another thing broken. Another thing Olivia couldn't fix. She thanked Mrs. Hernandez, pressed a 20 into her weathered hand, and locked the door behind her. The apartment felt smaller than its 400 square feet, a studio with a curtain dividing Luna's sleeping area from Olivia's, a kitchenette with exactly 3 working burners, a bathroom where the tile grout had gone gray years ago. Home. Barely. Luna chattered about her day, while Olivia sorted through the mail stacked on the counter. Junk, credit card offers she couldn't qualify for, and then there. The envelope she'd been dreading. Red letters screaming across white paper. Final notice. Her hands went cold. Mama, can we have spaghetti tonight? With the good sauce. Olivia opened the envelope, though she already knew what it would say. 72 hours to pay the balance in full or face eviction proceedings. $1,247. 3 months of rent she'd been juggling, promising the landlord, negotiating extensions that had finally run out.
Mama.
The good sauce. Yeah, baby. Spaghetti sounds perfect. The words came out automatic hollow. They had half a jar of the cheap sauce, the kind that tasted like tin cans and regret. The good sauce was $3 more, which might as well have been $300. Olivia set the eviction notice down and picked up the next envelope. The electric company. Also read, also final. Pay or disconnect within 5 business days. Another $318 she didn't have. She did the math in her head for the 1,000th time. Her paycheck from Bellissimo, minus the studio rent, minus Mrs. Hernandez, minus Luna's school lunch account, minus the minimum payment on the medical debt that had been haunting her since Luna's emergency room visit last winter. The equation never balanced. Every month, she fell further behind, drowning in increments. Luna tugged on her sleeve. Mama, why do you look sad? I'm not sad, sweetheart. I'm just tired. Olivia pulled her daughter close, pressing her face into those soft curls, hiding the tears that threatened to spill. Let's make that spaghetti, okay? But the envelopes sat on the counter like grave markers, counting down to the moment when tired wouldn't be enough anymore. The knock came during breakfast, 3 sharp raps that made Olivia jump and Luna spill orange juice across the table. Too early for Mrs. Hernandez. Too formal for the building super, who usually just texted complaints. Olivia peered through the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway, 50s maybe, dressed in a charcoal gray suit that looked government-issued. hair pulled back in a neat bun, hands clasped in front of her, empty except for a plain manila envelope. "Can I help you?" Olivia asked through the door. "Delivery for Olivia Torrey. I just need a signature." Something about the woman's posture, too straight, too controlled, made Olivia's instinct scream. But she opened the door anyway, keeping the chain latched. "From who?" "A private party. Your signature, please." The woman extended a clipboard through the gap, her expression professionally blank. Olivia signed, her hand shaking slightly. The woman passed the envelope through, nodded once, and disappeared down the hallway with footsteps too quiet for someone wearing heels. The envelope was heavy. Too heavy for documents. Olivia closed the door and turned the deadbolt, suddenly aware of her heartbeat in her throat. "What is it, Mama?" Luna asked, still mopping up orange juice with a paper towel. "I don't know yet, baby. Keep eating your cereal." Olivia opened the envelope at the kitchen counter, angling her body to block Luna's view. Cash spilled out, thick stacks of $100 bills bound with paper bands. Her vision blurred at the edges. She counted twice, her fingers numb, certain she'd made a mistake. $7,000. A note card fell out with a cash, cream-colored, expensive. The handwriting was the same sharp script from the restaurant receipt. "For your discretion and compassion. Our family is grateful." And oh, signature. No return address. No instructions, just money. So much money. Enough to pay rent, the electric bill, catch up on the car payment, buy Luna new shoes and the good spaghetti sauce, and maybe breathe for the first time in months. Blood money. That's what this was. Payment from a man whose eyes had measured her like a threat, whose world operated in shadows she'd spent her whole life avoiding. Money that came with invisible strings, with expectations she couldn't name, with a debt she'd never be able to repay. Olivia's hands trembled as she stuffed the cash back into the envelope. Luna hummed her butterfly song at the table, oblivious. The eviction notice sat 2 feet away, screaming in red letters. Olivia waited until Luna left for school before she opened her laptop. The $7,000 sat in the envelope on the counter, its presence filling the apartment like a toxic gas, invisible but suffocating. She typed his name into the search bar with shaking fingers. Gail Rogers. The results loaded slowly on her cheap internet connection. When they appeared, her stomach dropped. The first page was all legitimate business. Rogers Development Corporation, luxury real estate holdings across 3 states, charitable foundation donations that bought wings of hospitals and scholarships at prestigious universities. Photos of him in tailored suits shaking hands with mayors and congressmen, cutting ribbons at building openings, accepting community service awards. But Olivia had grown up in the crossroads. She knew how to read between the lines of respectability. She scrolled deeper, past the corporate press releases into forums and archived news articles. A construction union leader who'd opposed Rogers' development found dead in an apparent suicide, though his family insisted he'd never shown signs of depression. A journalist who'd been investigating Rogers' business practices suddenly relocated to another state, her exposé never published. Witnesses in a federal racketeering case who'd changed their testimonies at the last minute, their eyes hollow in courtroom sketches. One article from 5 years ago showed a younger Gail Rogers leaving a courthouse, charges dismissed due to lack of evidence. The headline read, "Alleged crime boss walks free again." The photo captured him mid-stride, his expression carved from ice, and Olivia recognized that same calculating gaze that had pinned her in place at the restaurant. She found mentions of his wife's death 3 years ago. Car accident, rainy night, no other vehicles involved. The obituary mentioned a daughter, Alessia, then 5 years old. Some comments on true crime forums speculated about the convenient timing, how Rogers' wife had reportedly been cooperating with federal investigators before her death. Speculation. Rumors. Nothing proven. That was the pattern with Gail Rogers. Smoke everywhere, but never any fire you could point to in court. Olivia's phone buzzed. A text from her landlord. "Need to talk about payment plan. Running out of patience. She looked at the envelope. $7,000 would solve everything. Would give Luna stability, safety, a home that wasn't balanced on a knife's edge. What kind of mother turned down salvation because of moral high ground? But the photos on her screen told a different story. The dead union leader. The silenced journalist. The terrified witnesses. These were people who'd gotten tangled in Gail Rogers' world and paid prices Olivia couldn't afford. She closed the laptop and pulled out the envelope, running her thumb over the thick stack of bills. Her hands were steady now, her decision crystallizing into something hard and unmovable. She would return the money. All of it.
Today.
She would go to his office, hand it back, make it clear she wanted nothing to do with his world. One act of kindness didn't make her his asset or his employee or whatever he thought that money entitled him to. She had to believe there was still a way to survive that didn't require selling pieces of her soul. Olivia called Rogers Development Corporation from the restaurant's back office during her break, the envelope burning a hole in her purse. The receptionist's voice was polished crystal, professional, distant, impenetrable. "I need to speak with Mr. Rogers about a personal matter. Mr. Rogers doesn't take unsolicited calls. If you'd like to leave a message with your name and tell him it's about his daughter. Tell him Olivia Torrey needs to return something." A pause, long enough that Olivia thought she'd been disconnected. Then, "Please hold." 30 seconds of classical music. Then a man's voice, not Gail's, deeper and rougher. "Ms. Torrey. Mr. Rogers appreciates your call, but the matter is closed." The gift was freely given with no expectations. "I don't want it. I need to return." "That won't be necessary. Have a good day, Ms. Torrey." The line went dead. Olivia stared at her phone, her pulse hammering. She tried calling back, twice more. Both times, the receptionist politely informed her that Mr. Rogers was unavailable and wouldn't be taking her calls. She left work early, claiming a headache that wasn't entirely a lie. The envelope stayed in her purse, heavy as a brick. She'd bring it to his office in person if she had to. She'd leave it with security. She'd mail it back. Something. Anything to sever this connection before it tightened into a noose. Riverside Elementary came into view 3 blocks away, its playground visible from the intersection. Olivia always picked up Luna from the after-school program at 4:30, always parked in the same spot under the oak tree. Except today, someone else was in her spot. A black sedan. Tinted windows. Engine running. The kind of car that cost more than Olivia would make in 5 years. Idling in a school zone like it belonged there, Olivia's feet stopped moving. Through the windshield, she could make out a figure behind the wheel, large, motionless, watching the school entrance where children streamed out in clusters of laughter and backpacks. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text message, just 3 words. "She's very pretty." Olivia's vision tunneled. She looked back at the car. The driver tilted his head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. He'd seen her see him. The message was crystal clear. "We know where your daughter goes to school. We know her schedule. We can reach her any time we want." The envelope in her purse suddenly felt like a chain. Olivia didn't remember the drive to Rogers Development Corporation. One moment she was standing outside Luna's school, watching that black sedan pull away with deliberate slowness, and the next she was in the glass tower's underground parking garage, the envelope clutched against her chest like a shield. The building was all marble and steel, the kind of corporate cathedral that made people like Olivia feel small by design. She bypassed the main reception desk and headed straight for the elevators, her server's instinct for finding back channels guiding her to the executive floor. Security stopped her at the top. 2 men in suits that didn't quite hide their bulk. "I need to see Gail Rogers. Now. Do you have an appointment? Tell him Olivia Torrey is here. Tell him I'm not leaving until he sees me." The guards exchanged glances. One spoke quietly into a radio. 30 seconds later, he nodded toward a set of double doors. "Mr. Rogers will see you." The office was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Furniture that probably cost more than her car. and Gail Rogers behind a desk of dark wood, watching her enter with the same calculating expression from the restaurant. Miss Tori.
He didn't stand. Didn't smile.
I thought I made it clear the money was a gift. Olivia slammed the envelope on his desk. I don't want your gift. I don't want anything from you. Take it back.
No.
The single word hit like a physical force. Gail leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. You helped my daughter. That deserves compensation. Compensation. Olivia's voice cracked. You sent someone to watch my daughter's school. You threatened. I threatened nothing. I simply made sure you understood the value of discretion. His tone remained perfectly level, perfectly controlled. My daughter is vulnerable, Miss Tori. Her inability to speak makes her a target. The fact that you can communicate with her makes you either an asset or a liability. I prefer assets. I'm not your asset. I'm not anything to you. That's where you're wrong. Gail stood now, moving around the desk with predatory grace. The moment you signed to Alessia, you became part of her world. And in my world, there are only two types of people, those under my protection and those who aren't. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that Olivia could see the coldness in his eyes, the absolute certainty of a man who'd never been told no. Here's what's going to happen. You'll take the money. You'll accept my protection for you and your daughter. And occasionally, when Alessia needs someone who can truly understand her, you'll be available. In exchange, your debts disappear. Your safety is guaranteed. Your daughter grows up in a world where she never has to worry about eviction notices or which bills to pay first. And if I refuse, his smile was terrible. Then you're refusing a Rogers favor. And people who refuse my generosity tend to find life becomes significantly more difficult. Jobs become hard to keep. Landlords become less flexible. Problems multiply. Olivia's hands clenched into fists. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. He picked up the envelope, held it out to her. Take care of your daughter, Miss Tori. Or spend the rest of your life wondering if you made the right decision when you watch her suffer for your pride. The envelope hung between them like a verdict. Olivia stared at the envelope, her mind racing through impossible calculations. $7,000. Luna's face when Olivia told her they might have to move again, might have to switch schools, might have to leave Mrs. Hernandez and the small piece of stability they'd managed to carve out. The eviction notice. The disconnection warning. The car payment she couldn't make. I'm not asking you to do anything illegal, Gail said, his voice softening by a fraction. Not kindness, just strategy. I'm asking you to occasionally spend time with a little girl who desperately needs someone who can communicate with her. Someone who sees her as a person, not a disability. Is that really such a terrible thing? You're twisting this. Olivia's voice came out hoarse, making it sound like charity when it's just control. Call it what you want, but ask yourself, what exactly are you protecting by refusing? Your moral purity? Your pride? He stepped closer, and Olivia forced herself not to retreat. Because from where I stand, you're not protecting your daughter. You're condemning her to instability and fear because you're too proud to accept help from someone you've decided is a monster. You had someone watch her school. I had someone ensure her safety while demonstrating a point. There's a difference. Gail's eyes held hers unflinching. My enemies don't make distinctions, Miss Tori. They don't care about your moral high ground. The moment you signed to Alessia in that restaurant, you became visible. You think returning this money erases that? You think refusing my protection makes you safer? The words hit like ice water. Olivia hadn't considered that, the possibility that she was already marked, already noticed by whatever shadowy network Gail operated in. That refusing might not mean freedom, but simply losing the only shield she'd been offered. How do I know you won't ask for more? Her voice was barely a whisper. How do I know where this ends? You don't. He said it plainly, without artifice. But you know where refusing ends. You've seen the eviction notice. You've counted the days until the lights go out. You done the math on how long you can keep Luna fed and housed on a waitress's salary. He pressed the envelope into her hands. I'm offering you a way out. Not a perfect one. Not a clean one. But a way out nonetheless. Olivia's fingers closed around the envelope automatically. The weight of it felt different now, not just money, but a choice that would define everything that came after. She thought of Luna singing her butterfly song, oblivious to how close they'd come to losing everything. She thought of the black sedan outside the school, the message it carried. She thought of Alessia's face lighting up when someone finally understood her. If I do this, Olivia said slowly, each word feeling like a stone dropping into a well, if I take this money, Luna stays safe. That's non-negotiable. Whatever world you operate in, whatever enemies you have, they don't touch her. Ever. Gail's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or recognition. You have my word. Your daughter will be safer under my protection than she's ever been in her life. Then I guess we have a deal. The words tasted like ash, but Olivia didn't let go of the envelope. She couldn't afford to anymore. Gail nodded once, final as a door closing. Victor will be your contact. He'll provide you with a secure phone and instructions. Welcome to the family, Miss Torrey. Olivia turned toward the door, the envelope clutched against her chest, and tried not to think about how easy it had been to cross a line she'd sworn she'd never approach. The worst part wasn't that she'd made a deal with the devil. The worst part was the relief flooding through her veins, knowing that tonight, she could pay the rent. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And remember, another brand new story will be waiting for you tomorrow.